Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with our discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, third chapter, pure devotional service, the change in heart, text number 19 onwards. So Saunaka Rishi is speaking with Suta Goswami, and previous two verses we saw how he kind of chastised people who don't like to hear the, the topic about Krishna, the glories of Krishna. And he is further saying, I mean, these verses are very heavy. Shvavidvara oshtrakhara sansuta purusha pashu nayat karna pathopeto jatu nama gadagrajaha. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. Whoa. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Okay. Praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna. Means they are against hearing about Krishna. They are against devotional service. So why dogs, hogs, camels, and asses? So Prabhupada is given in this purport. The general mass of people, unless they are trained systematically for a higher standard of life and spiritual values, are no better than animals. And in this verse, they have particularly been put on the levels of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Modern university education practically prepares one to acquire a doggish mentality with which to accept the service of a greater master. After finishing a so-called education, the so-called educated persons move like dogs from door to door with applications, with a resume or biodata for some service. Give me some job, give me some job. And mostly they are driven away, informed of no vacancy. As dogs are negligible animals and serve the master faithfully for bits of bread, a man serves a master faithfully without sufficient rewards. So whenever we send our resumes for jobs here and there, we should understand what Srimad Bhagavatam is talking about. Of course, I mean, on the other hand, this is not for devotees. Devotees take up jobs they know they can serve Krishna better this way. But in general, you can see 99.99% of population is like that. Okay, now first we were dogs, and now let's see what Prabhupada talks about hogs. Persons who have no discrimination in the matter of foodstuff and who eat all sorts of rubbish are compared to hogs. So no discrimination, they can eat anything and everything. And Delhi is quite famous for all the eating joints and the street food and this food and Paranthe Wali Gali and the Chaat Papdi and this gali and that bazaar and this and that. People just like to eat everything, everywhere. Hogs are very much attached to eating stools. So stool is a kind of foodstuff for a particular type of animal. And even stones are eatables for a particular type of animal or bird. But the human being is not meant for eating everything and anything. He is meant to eat grains, vegetables, fruits, milk, sugar, etc. Animal food is not meant for the human being. For chewing solid food, the human being has a particular type of teeth meant for cutting fruits and vegetables. The human being is endowed with two canine teeth as a concession for persons who will eat animal food at any cost. It's known to everyone that one man's food is another man's poison. Human beings are expected to accept the remnants of food offered to Lord Sri Krishna. And the Lord accepts foodstuff from the categories of leaves, flowers, fruits, etc. As prescribed by Vedic scriptures, no animal food is offered to the Lord. Therefore, a human being is meant to eat a particular type of food. He should not imitate the animals to derive so called vitamin values. Therefore, a person who has no discrimination in regard to eating is compared to a hog. Okay, so we are dogs and hogs. Now let's see how we are camels. The camel is a kind of animal that takes pleasure in eating thorns. So camel, because they're mostly in the deserts, and desert they're on the cactus that grows. So camel eats that cactus, and in fact, the thorns in the cactus flower or cactus plant is really very relishable for the camels. Why? A person who wants to enjoy family life or the worldly life of so called enjoyment is compared to the camel. Materialistic life is full of thorns, and so one should live only by the prescribed method of Vedic regulations just to make the best use of a bad bargain. Life in the material world is maintained by sucking one's own blood. Life in material world is maintained by sucking one's own blood. The central point of attraction for material enjoyment is sex life. To enjoy sex life is to suck one's own blood, and there is not much more to be explained in this connection. Okay, of course, Prabhupada didn't explain, but he has explained in other places. Um, so, to enjoy sex life, when a man discharges semen is considered, it has so much of energy. It is a one drop of semen is equivalent to 60 drops of blood, energy wise. So to enjoy sex life, one discharges semen means he is discharging his own blood and he thinks he's enjoying. The camel also sucks its own blood while chewing tawny twigs. Thorny twigs. The thorns the camel eats cuts the tongue of the camel, and so blood begins to flow within the camel's mouth. The thorns, mixed with the fresh blood, creates a taste for the foolish camel, and so he enjoys a thorn-eating business with false pleasure. So camel, when he bites on the cactus, so the thorns, they cut his tongue, and the blood comes out. So camel is chewing on the thorn along with the blood, and he's thinking, oh, it's very tasty, very juicy, very succulent. Not understanding he's sucking his own blood. Similarly, the great business magnates, industrialists who work very hard to earn money by different ways and questionable means eat the thorny results of their actions, mixed with their own blood. Therefore, the Bhagavatam has situated these diseased fellows along with the camels. So, great business magnates, industrialists who work very hard to earn money. Of course, they have to work very hard. It's not like there's no such thing as called free lunch. They have to work hard to make that kind of money. And not just physical, but mentally they're always in tension, always stressed out. Because they have to look after the business. And whenever the big business is there, obviously there will be so many thieves who want to steal. There'll be tax people, there'll be government after them, there'll be different kind of people get into action. So protect the business from all these people and still to make it grow. And there's so much of competition and so much of work. To do what? And like Prabhupada has explained some of the places, at the end of the day, all they are going to eat is two chapatis and they need a 6 foot by 3 foot of space to sleep. That's all. Why work so hard just to get that? Of course, that doesn't mean we should all become lazy. Laziness is not what Prabhupada is recommending. We should work hard for Krishna. But this is not what people understand. And now, dogs, hogs, camels, now we are asses. How we are ass? The ass is an animal who is celebrated as the greatest fool even amongst the animals. That's it. Compare anybody to Gadha means you're a great fool. The ass works very hard and carries burdens of the maximum weight without making profit for itself. The ass is generally engaged by the washerman, whose social position is not very respectable, and the special qualification of the ass is that it's very much accustomed to being kicked by the opposite sex. When the ass begs for sexual intercourse, he is kicked by the fair sex. Yet he still follows the female for such sexual pleasure. A henpecked man is compared, therefore, to the ass. The general mass of people work very hard, especially in the age of Kali. In this age, a human being is actually engaged in the work of an ass, carrying heavy burdens and driving tela and rickshaws. The so-called advancement of human civilization has engaged a human being in the work of an ass. The laborers in great factories and workshops are also engaged in such burdensome work. And after working hard during the day, the poor laborer has to be again kicked by the fair sex, not only for sex enjoyment, but also for so many household affairs. Wow. Also, about this ass mentality or ass, the animal ass. What he does, also there's another quality of donkey or an ass is he becomes thin. He becomes lean during the rainy season when there is so much of grass, and he becomes fat during April May time when there is no grass or hardly any grass in the ground, and that's why he's called in villages. Ass is also called Vaishak Nandan. It means he becomes very happy during Vaishak, April May time when there is no grass. So actually, what happens? The mentality is, see, when the rainy season and the grass is there, so much of grass is there, he starts eating the grass. So he eats. But then he looks around, looks back. There is so much of grass, and he thinks he hasn't eaten anything. That's why there is so much of grass, and that's why he becomes slim. He loses weight just by thinking he hasn't eaten anything. And during April, May time, when there is hardly any grass, he is also let loose to eat grass. So he starts eating, but then he looks around, there's hardly any grass. So he thinks he has eaten a lot. So he becomes fat. And it's a fact. He becomes fat during the time when there is hardly any grass on the ground. And he carries such a big load of clothes for the washerman from the house to the river, and the washerman cleans the clothes, loads the clothes back on the ass and brings it back. And what does it get in the end? A few pieces of grass. But the grass is there. When he is going to the river and coming back from the river, the grass is there on the ground. He can go and eat, but he doesn't go because his mentality is, unless and until I work hard for this washerman, I will not get grass to eat. So this is our mentality. Unless until we work for this company or for this employer, and he is treating us like an ass, making us work hard, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. Unless until I do that, nobody will take care of me. Who will take care of me? Who will give me food to eat? Who will give me clothes to wear? Of course, that doesn't mean we do not work. I'm not saying we become lazy, but But a person who is devoted to Krishna, Krishna, when he says in Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Kshemam Mahamyaham, I personally take care of my devotees. We should have full faith in that. That's the problem. We don't have faith. So let's see what Prabhupada further says. So Srimad Bhagavatam's categorization of common man without any spiritual enlightenment into the society of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses is not at all an exaggeration. The leaders of such ignorant masses of people may feel very proud of being adored by such a number of dogs and hogs, but that's not very flattering. Bhagavatam openly declares that although a person may be a great leader of such dogs and hogs, disguised as men, if he has no taste for being enlightened in the science of Krishna, such a leader is also an animal and nothing more. He may be designated as a powerful, strong animal or a big animal, but in the estimation of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is never given a place in the category of man on account of his atheistic temperament. Or in other words, such godless leaders of dogs and hog-like men are bigger animals with the qualities of animals in greater proportion. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam. This is real preaching actually. Very heavy. Text 20. Bile bator urkram vikramani ye nashanvata karna pute narasya jivasati dharturike vadsuta nacha upagayati urugaya gatha. One who has not listened to the messages from the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead, and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord, is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. So it wasn't enough that we are compared to dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Now Shonakrishi is comparing us to snakes and frogs. Devotional service to the Lord is rendered by all limbs or parts of the body. Its transcendental dynamic force of the spirit soul. Therefore, a devotee is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord. One can engage in the devotional service when the senses of the body are purified in relation with the Lord, and one can render service to the Lord with the help of all the senses. As such, the senses and the actions of the senses are considered impure or materialistic as long as they employ only in sense gratification. The purified senses are engaged not in sense gratification but in the service of the Lord in toto. Okay, it's a long paragraph. Let's go to the real juicy paragraph. In the impure state of the living being, the various senses are fully engaged in mundane affairs. If the ear is not engaged in the service of the Lord by hearing about Him from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, certainly the holes of the ear will be filled with some rubbish. Because the ears have to hear something, some sound vibration has to go inside. So if it is not Krishna katha, then some mundane katha will be there. Therefore, the messages of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam should be preached all over the world very loud. That's the duty of a pure devotee who has actually heard about them from the perfect sources. Many want to speak something to others, but because they're not trained to speak on the subject matter of Vedic wisdom, they're all speaking nonsense, and people are receiving them with no sense. Similarly, people of the world should be taught to hear it. Okay, why it is called, I just wanted to make sure that we understand the comparison. The ear holes, if they're not receiving the message of Krishna, then they are the holes where the snakes live. Means they're compared to death. If we are not listening to message of Krishna. And about frog, Prabhupada is writing, the frogs loudly croak, with the result that they invite the snakes to eat them. The human tongue is especially given for chanting the Vedic hymns and not for croaking like frogs. The word asati used in this word is also significant. Asati means a woman who has become a prostitute. A prostitute has no good reputation for good womanly qualities. What do they considered a prostitute when engaged in chanting some mundane nonsense? So basically, Bhagavatam says all our senses are given to us to be engaged in service of Krishna because these senses, this whole body actually is property of Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhumi Rapo Analo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhire Vacha. This whole world is made of what? Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. And Krishna says they are my eight separated energies. So everything actually belongs to Krishna. And the devotee's job is to engage everything in service of Krishna. And Prabhupada is saying asati means a woman who has become a prostitute, means who is not used, if when we don't use our body, this body, which is Krishna's property, in service of Krishna, then we are like a prostitute. We are trying to enjoy this body which belongs to somebody else. Heavy. Very heavy. So next, Bharaparam Pattakirita api uttamangana namen mukundam shavo karuna kurte saparya harer lasat kanchan kangano va. The upper portion of the body, though crowned with a silk turban, is only a heavy burden if not bowed down before the personality of Godhead, who can award mukti, freedom, and the hands, though decorated with glittering bangles, are like those of a dead man if not engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead, Hari. As stated herein before, there are three kinds of devotees of the Lord. The first class devotee does not at all see anyone who is not in the service of the Lord. But the second class devotee makes distinctions between devotees and non-devotees. Second class devotees are therefore meant for preaching work, and as referred to in the above verse, they must loudly preach the glories of the Lord. The second class devotees accept disciples from the section of third class devotees or non-devotees. Sometimes first class devotee also comes down to the category of the second class for preaching work. But the common man who is expected to become at least a third class devotee is advised herein to visit the temples of the Lord and bow down before the deity. Even though he may be a very rich man or even a king with a silk turban or crown. The Lord is a Lord of everyone, including the great kings and emperors, and men who are rich in the estimation of mundane people must therefore make it a point to visit the temple of Lord Sri Krishna and regularly bow down before the deity. So Prabhupada further saying, means if we don't bow down, the common man who's puffed up with his material position and does not bow down before the deity of the Lord in the temple, or who defies temple worship without any knowledge of the science, must know that his so-called turban or crown will only succeed in further drowning him in the water of the ocean of material existence. A drowning man with a heavy weight on his head is sure to go down more swiftly than those who have no heavy weight. A foolish, puffed up man defies the signs of God and says that God has no meaning for him, but when he is in the grip of God's law and is caught by some disease, like cerebral thrombosis, that godless man sinks into the ocean of nescience by the weight of his material acquisition. Of course, this here in the words it says the turban, if he's wearing a turban, but it also means a person who is very puffed up by his mundane education, mundane scholarships. So his head is literally heavy with the so-called knowledge. And when this so-called knowledge is there, he does not bow down before the Lord, bow down before the deity, because he thinks, who is this? This is just stone, piece of stone or wood or metal. Why I should bow down? Why I should pay obeisances? I know so much. I am so happy with my knowledge. I am so happy with my position in the society and this and that. So the real meaning is one does not bow down. So that heavy load, even if it is of education, if it is of real wealth, it will take him more and more towards hell. The common man, if he has no time to worship the Lord, may at least engage his hands for a few seconds in washing or sweeping the Lord's temple. Maharaj Prataprudra, the great powerful king of Odisha, was always very busy with heavy state responsibilities. Yet he made it a point to sweep the temple of Lord Jagannath at Puri once a year during the festival of the Lord. The idea is that however important a man one may be, he must accept the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. This God consciousness will help a man even in his material prosperity. Maharaj Pratap Rudra's subordination before Lord Jagannath made him a powerful king, so much so that even the great Pathan in his time could not enter into Odisha on an account of the powerful Maharaj Pratap Rudra. And at last, Maharaj Pratap Rudra was graced by Lord Sri Chaitanya on the very grounds of his acceptance of subordination to the Lord of the universe. So even though a rich man's wife has glittering bangles made of gold on her hands, she must engage herself in rendering service to the Lord. Otherwise, those hands are considered to be the hands of a dead body. Because if we are not serving the Lord, then we are as good as a dead body anyway. What's the point in making so much of noise in the world if you're not if you're not serving the Lord? Very eye-opening verses. Anyway, I'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Prabhu, what is the verse number? Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
19, 20, 21st. Covered three of them.
So, Prabhuji, one question. When the statement is there, right, that you are as good as a dead body if you are not able to serve the Lord. So, Prabhu, in such a situation, let's say we have very close family members, let's say parents are there and we are not able to tell them that, yes, you have to chant or you have to do some service to the Lord. So, how should we see that? In that situation, we see that they are very old, and so how should we understand this?
Well, one thing have given birth who's a devotee, then the parents are already devotees. Krishna will consider that also. That is one point. And service can be done mentally also, if not physically, and then one can do. And that's why devotees, we create people's agyat sukriti by either, if no service, at least give some donation. But the preaching is also very, it has to be done in a very compassionate mood, not in a forceful mood or fanatic mood. It has to be done in a, first we have to make them friends, well-wishers. Then somebody will come and do some service. It's a long path. So so don't worry if parents are not doing and if you are doing, they will get the benefit.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Dhanasana Prabhuji. Prabhuji, all these verses are being asked by Saunaka Rishi, or are they being said by Sud Goswami?
No, Shaunak Rishi is speaking right now. He is
Speaking.
he is asking Sud Goswami, but while asking, he is saying that if somebody is not willing to hear or serve Krishna, then they are like this.
So even in question also he is giving heavy message and preaching. Prabhuji.
Oh
Amazing.
yeah, oh yeah. Very qualified sages. That's why they're so eager to hear about Krishna.
Eye opener, Prabhuji. And
Yep.
thank you so much. The way you explain, I think today I'll read the purport all over again. So it's very powerful. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Babuji. Okay. Thank you all very much. You all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Thank you.